I'm Danny, and this is Asher. We're two Kiwis who, after 5 years living in London, decided to head home the slow way. We bought a 36-foot sailing boat, Bacchus, built a little rowing and sailing dinghy, Waka Waka, and headed towards the horizon. These are our adventures.
We're underway again. It's been a very short stop in Carriacou for us, just a couple of days. We're wanting to get west, get over to the ABCs and to Panama. But first we have to go check out the mainland of Grenada, which I'm really excited about. We've all heard stories about the Spice Island. It's meant to be amazing scenery, really cool jungles and rainforests. Yeah, some good anchorages down in the south end of the island. This is where we're headed today. Started off up here at Carriacou, and we're going to head down to the bottom of Grenada. Something that we're going to be going past today is this very dramatic sounding Red Alert Exclusion Zone, and it's actually a volcano. It's an underwater volcano here, and it's called Jenny, and it erupts periodically. So the Grenadian government have got an exclusion zone around it. It's optional how you treat that exclusion zone, as in it's not enforced. So if you want to sail right over the top, you can. I'd rather not sail right over the top, but we'll see how the wind goes as we approach it. If we can give it a little bit of a berth, that would be nice. This coffee smells so good. I think installing this wind vane has improved my sailing skills a little bit, because it's so important now to have the boat balanced. When we used the autopilot, which is just a big powerful hydraulic ram which drives our main rudder, a big powerful rudder, your sail trim was less important because the autopilot could just deal with whatever you threw at it and keep you on course. The hydrovane, if the boat's not balanced, it can't steer. So I think I've become a little bit smarter with my sail trim. I've still got so much to learn. I'm still a rank amateur, but I think I'm getting a lot better at balancing the boat. Selecting the sail size, like we've got 2 reefs in today in the main, which, you know, we've got 19 to 20 knots of wind, so it seems a little bit conservative, but that's what has the boat balanced nicely. And our speed's not suffering. We're doing 6.5 to 7 through the water. Yeah, so it's really good. That hydrovane is nothing but good news. So we're leaving the volcano zone here comfortably to port. This bigger circle around here is the exclusion zone that's in place when the volcano is actually erupting. Last time it did that was 2001, but it's all quiet at the moment, so we can sail through it and be quite happy that we're safe. It's really tough conditions for the self-steering. It's these big quartering waves that throw us around, and these bullets of wind that are coming down off the hills. It's all about keeping the boat balanced, but it's not easy when it's like this. It's a wild one. It's a bit wild up here. A lot of wind, and it's just really, really gusty. We've got these big gusts coming down off the hills, and we've given up with the hydrovane. We're just hand steering now. It's a bit hard to balance the boat because our genoa is a bit of a funny shape for reaching. It's designed for going upwind. Danny's doing a good job on the wheel.
I'm holding it together.
And so our plan as we approach the point up here is to get the engine running and get the sails down. We've got 2 miles to get to Prickly Bay which is where we're going to stop, but it's dead into the wind, and if we try and beat our way up there, we're going to have to head out into the Atlantic swell again, and we've got 25 in the gusts, so it'll be over 30 across the deck. It just doesn't sound like fun. So we're going to use the engine, and we're just going to pick our way along the shoreline for that 2 miles, and hopefully we can find a nice anchorage at Prickley. We've got all 29 horses in our little Volvo pushing us to windward at the moment. It's still blowing about 25 knots, and we've gone around the bottom of Grenada, and we're basically having to head straight into the trade winds to get up to Prickley Bay. It's only a couple of miles, but it's slow progress. So that's where we're headed, up there. It kind of feels, Danny and I were just saying, like we're back in the Canaries, and we had that approach into the marina on Lanzarote that was, we had 25 to 30 knots then. So, feels a little bit similar. Although the island is much greener. Well, that's it. Anchor down in Prickley Bay.
See you.
It's a bit of a tricky approach in the end. We had to really bash into it with the engine. But we found ourselves a little hole. We don't have much of a lee, unfortunately, from the wind, but we've got an anchorage. The anchor's set well, and it's not too far for us to go ashore. So we'll chuck the dinghy in the water soon, and we'll head ashore and start checking out mainland Grenada.
We've come into St George, which is the main port in Grenada for the day. So we're just down in the fishing, shipping, working area at the moment.
It's pretty interesting. We've just watched an old, well, she looks old, wooden sailing ship, maybe 50 feet long, and she's loading up with cargo. So they've still got commercial ships made of timber, powered by the wind, going around the islands down here, which is quite fantastic to see. She was loading up with, there was cases of beer going on board, there was produce and just general groceries and all sorts, all being lifted down into the hold. Yeah, so quite cool.
Lots going on. We've just got some gorgeous buildings in Grenada. Like even in Carriacou, all those cute little wooden overgrown houses, and now there's all brick.
So I was reading in the pilot book that the spice ships used to head from here to England filled with spice.
Yeah.
But then they'd come back with bricks and ballast. That was what they brought back with them.
Right, that makes sense.
That wasn't the profitable leg of the trip. The profitable leg of the trip was the spice, but they'd bring back the bricks. And so that's why we see all these brick buildings here. Going into Fort St George, on the hill above St George in Grenada. So we're up on top of Fort St George, and this was where in 1983 they actually executed the Prime Minister and a number of other politicians after a coup, and it was that then led to the invasion of Grenada by the US and some of the other Caribbean nations in 1983. But it's an amazing view. It reminds me of Lisbon actually in Portugal, red roofs and just how steep it is and how it all wraps around the harbour. It's quite spectacular. Police car with some serious sounds on the roof.
It's a steep hill, eh?
Really steep.
Yeah, this is called an oil down, which I think is quite a popular Grenadian dish. Got spinach and I think is a chicken.
Yeah.
And this, but like a curry. And over there is a more traditional
Classic chicken.
Caribbean macaroni pie.
Yeah. Cheers. So the sign tells us that we're just outside the Houses of Parliament, but the building's totally ruined and abandoned. Really interesting.
One thing we've figured out about Grenada is that you don't have to find a bus. The local buses find you. So if we just jump on the other side of the road, someone will yell at us very shortly.
Comes another one.
Come on. We are playing the very fun game, which I'm sure many travellers have played before us, called Retracing Your Steps, as we have lost our dinghy key. So we won't be able to use our brand new Torpedo engine until we find the key. Luckily it's bright orange, but I don't know how lucky we're going to be today. Ash is in not the greatest mood.
Not happy. It was in my pocket and I've lost it. I'm really, really brassed off. And we don't have a spare. The dinghy only came with one, which was really silly.
What have you found?
We found, in the middle of downtown St George, we found our little Torpedo key. It was sitting on the floor here.
Just here, which is actually lucky because it doesn't have a lot of thoroughfare, because we just came up here to get a view.
I think maybe if it had been lying on the pavement, somebody would have picked it up because it's kind of shiny and new looking, interesting. Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes.
So happy.
Now let's go back on the bus.
Oh my goodness. Right, now where do we put the damn thing now? I'm going to attach it to my belt.
Yeah, tie it on.
Now. What are you off to do, Scuba Steve?
Scrubbing the bottom this morning.
Scrubbing the bottom.
Bacchus has got a dirty bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm going to attack it with this.
Yeah, so we're getting the boat ready for the big trip from the Windward Isles over to the ABCs. It's going to be about 450 miles, so it'll be our first big passage since we did the Atlantic. Lots to do before we go, and we're in a bit of a rush because we want to get moving.
We've spent too much time in the Caribbean.
We're a little bit late, so we want to get moving. So I've got a small coolant leak on the engine, which I'm just trying to track down and fix. I think the coolant is sneaking out from the union between one of the pipes that takes the hot coolant to our hot water cylinder, which heats the domestic hot water on the boat. I think there's a little bit of coolant that's sneaking out there. So I'm working on that. Danny's off to scrub the bottom. We've got lots of other things to do as well. So busy here in Grenada. So here is Bacchus's freshwater pump. This is the unit actually that I removed in Beckway not that long ago. And I think I've discovered another little leak. So this pipe here, this fitting, takes hot coolant from the engine and it sends it off to our domestic hot water cylinder, which gives us hot water in the galley and in the head. And I don't know if you can see, but there's like little crystals that are growing around the base here. Little dusty little crystal things. Now I think they are the leftovers from evaporated coolant. So I think there's a little bit of coolant, a tiny little amount sneaking out from that union and evaporating on the hot pump. You can't see a leak when the engine's running. It's that small, but the engine is losing a little bit of coolant, and I think that's where it's going. So I'm going to pull the whole pump unit off again. I'm going to take this little brass fitting off. I'm going to reseal that connection, and then I'm going to put it back together.
Pretty happy with that. I reckon we'll get another knot out of the boat now. Nice quick trip.
Okay, water pump is off. Here he is. You can see all of those little crystals quite clearly now around that that little outlet. So we're going to take the outlet off and see if we can get it to seal up a bit better than it is. This is where I wish I had a workshop. I'm so envious of those big boats that have like a proper workbench down the back, because here I am basically pulling my pump to pieces in the bilge because I don't want to use the galley or the nice table in the saloon. So I do wish I had a workshop. So there's quite a lot of pitting on the surface of this pump. You can see there, that's the hole where my little fitting has to screw into, and you can see the surface is quite rough and uneven. So I've made the world's tiniest little gasket. As you know from previous episodes, I'm now all about homemade gaskets. If I was in London still, I would open some hipster little shop doing artisanal homemade gaskets, and the hipsters in Hackney would lap it up. But I'm not in London, I'm in the Caribbean. So I've made my little gasket, and I've put a little bit of silicone around it, and I'm going to screw the whole thing home, and I'm really hoping that it all just seals up nicely. So I'm going to use a little bit of silicone to try and seal this up. So use a bit of this stuff. This is the point where you, as the viewer, scream and shout at the computer, "No, don't use that one, you'll wreck your engine!" Because I don't know, but I can't hear you if that's what you're screaming at home. So no, this is a West Marine silicone sealant, sealant and adhesive, resistant to heat. So I think that's probably going to work for sealing up dodgy hot water junctions, I think. So I'm just going to wipe a little bit of this on the threads. I've cleaned everything up with a wire brush. A little bit of silicone on the threads. I'm going to screw it up together, let the silicone go off, and hopefully that stops any more coolant from sneaking out through that little union.
You can't come all the way to Grenada just to do jobs. So I found a local rental car agency, and we made sure we squeezed in a day of exploration. We've hired a car in Grenada today to head around and check out the waterfalls, etc. But it's been quite an eventful morning already. I turned up at the local rental car agency, and they told me I needed to get a local licence, so we've been down to the police station already, and then jumped into our wee car, and they said to us to return it the fuel level that it's at, which was the fuel light on. So our first stop is the petrol station.
Got cars behind us.
We better go. Okay, I'll give this to you. So, petrol station done, police station done. Should we go check out the island?
Let's do it.
Just, It's just such an awesome colour, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
How does it get to be such a great colour?
This waterfall that we've arrived at is very pretty, but it's super touristy. They've got charges for everything. They want to make you pay to watch a guy jump off the top and get your photo and everything. It's a nice spot, but I think we've seen better. These ones are better. Yeah.
We're off the beaten track now a little bit, so done a couple of other people at these falls, which was really nice, and we don't have people trying to sell us all types of random things. It's quite a nice, peaceful wee spot here, and an amazing amount of colourful leaves and flowers, and really nice gardens in Grenada. It's really beautiful. local eatery on the road, on the side of the road. Got ourselves an oil down. Well, fill us up quite a lot, there's a lot of food.
Okay.
So sad when you see sunken boats in the anchorages, like this one behind me. Her name's YOLO, which I guess is very true in this situation. Check out Ash's look today.
Oof. Pretty 80s maybe.
What's going on?
So I'm going up the mast. We've had some trouble with our main halyard. People will recall a while ago we had a sheave that broke at the top of the mast. We've had that replaced, but we've now got a lot of chafe happening on the halyard itself, and actually where the halyard sits when it's at full hoist, it's chafed all the way through the outer sheath of the halyard rope. So I'm going to go up the rig today and just have a look at how that new sheave is sitting and see if I can work out why it's chafing and try and fix it. So there's no obvious problem up there, it all looks pretty good. There is a slight little ridge in the aluminium from the welding at the top of the mast, just where the rope disappears into the sheave. And so there's a little ridge there which has got, it's not really an edge, but it's got a slight protrusion there. So I just, with a little bit of, with a little file, just took the nub off that. So it's slightly smoother entry for the rope. So that might have been what's causing it. Maybe I'm just hoisting the sail with too much tension. Yeah, but we'll see how that goes. We're going to put a new halyard on anyway, because this one's a bit stuffed now. The test now is to start the engine up and see if anything leaks. There's a lot of different places that things could leak, so I'm nervous, but hopeful.
The moment of truth.
So now, really just looking for leaks and hoping I don't find any. We have a drip. No! One drip. I'm going to tighten the thing up. No, probably not.
Please be careful.
Two drips. Not happy.
So what does this mean for us?
Okay, they're not terrible leaks, they're just very slow drips, but the problem's not fixed. I'm going to shut the engine off. The good news is it's not leaking from around the gasket where I sealed the water pump on. It's leaking from those two hoses. I guess I'll just take those hoses off and put them back on again, screw them up tighter. They didn't used to leak. Frustrating. There's been so many little things with this engine which I haven't really understood, and that's been a real challenge to try and fix when you don't really understand how the thing works and you're trying to figure it out while you go. But this one is frustrating because I know how this works. I'm just literally trying to stop some leaks. This is just plumbing and I just can't get the damn things to stop. Anyway, it's getting late and I'm getting really frustrated. So we're going to start the engine again. We're going to see if there's still the two leaks that were before. Maybe there's more leaks this time, who knows. Maybe there's less. It'd be nice if there was less. One leak.
So
we've got one little leak from the brass fitting, and that brass fitting goes into an aluminium pump housing, and I'm just very aware when I'm working with these things, because that fitting's on the end of a little right angled spout, I've really got to be careful how much force I give it with the spanner, because I could just rip the whole thing off. The aluminium is soft. If it's leaking, I think that means it's not done up tight enough, although I put a lot of oomph into doing it up. So I guess I'll just try and do it up a little bit tighter. But if I rip the whole thing off the top of the pump, that'll be a complete disaster.
And the bottom one's not leaking now?
The bottom one is now not leaking. So I did that one up with a lot of oomph just then as well, and I put some thread tape on both of the threads, and that one's not leaking. So I guess I'll just give the top one a little bit more herbs and really hope that that somehow seals it.
Right, what's happening, Captain?
So we've been ashore this morning. Danny's gone and cleared customs. We've used the internet. We've bought a few bits and pieces for Bacchus, including a fancy new halyard to replace the one that's almost worn through. We've done some provisioning, last minute provisioning. We've got a little bit of fresh produce because all we were down to was one sack of onions. And everybody knows you can't live on fresh onions for 4 days. So we've got some lovely eggplants and some tomatoes and some oranges to supplement the onions. But we're going to head off. We're on our way west. We're heading for Bonaire. We're expecting it to take 3 days, but we want to hit the road as soon as possible because it's 11:30 now. And if it takes longer than 3 days, we risk arriving in the night time, which we don't want to do. So we're off.
Bye, Grenada. So we lifted the anchor for the final time in the Windward Isles and began our 3-day journey west. Little did we know that while we were flying across the Caribbean Sea, the rest of the world would be falling apart from the coronavirus. Join us on our next episode as we make a pirate detour to Bonaire and discover our plans are about to radically change. If you're enjoying our episodes and want to get early access, as well as some other sweet perks, jump onto our Patreon page to support us.